Welcome back to the channel and part 4 of this behind the scenes series as I walk you through my display and how I put it together. On today's video, it's all about one of the biggest props you can possibly buy, but I couldn't fit it anywhere in my house, so I put it on a neighbour's house, and this is how I put the massive Yai Yai Flake together. Now, at the moment that I saw this prop designed by Gilbert Engineering, I just had to have one. But with nowhere to put it in my yard that would make sense and without blocking half of my display, I just put it in the never ever gonna happen category. That was up until my neighbours mentioned to me that if I ever ran out of room on my place and I wanted to expand over to their side of the yard or on their house, I was more than welcome to. And I tell you what, I answered with, I know exactly the thing that can go there. So I jumped online to Christmas Props Australia and got the ball rolling. Now, I knew this thing was going to be big, but until I saw it upright, I didn't realise how big it actually is. The Yai Yai stands 5.5 metres tall by 5.5 metres wide, and it holds 4,500 pixels. Now, it was a mission in itself just to push the pixels into this prop alone, but nothing would prepare me for the mammoth effort to put this thing together and get it upright. So with the perfect plan in place, thanks to some help from Dean from Christmas Lights in McPherson, who's previously put one of these together and had it up and running in his display. Now this is pretty well a carbon copy of what Dean's done, and he was more than willing to help me out, share his plans and talk me through how he went about it. So let's run through it now and I'll show you how exactly this Yai Yai Flake's put together. Now, the bones of the Yai Yai Flake is the most important part of this build. You don't want to half-ass this job and skimp out on material, because this is such a big prop and has such a big surface area that if the wind gets behind it, you're going to want to have the best possible frame to keep it upright. Now, so the way that Dean's done it, and he showed me, and so what I've done with this stage trussing, which I've got online, so that's 300mm by 300mm with a 50mm pipe on the outside. So I've got two pieces here. I've got a 3-metre piece and a 2-metre piece. The Yai Yai is 5.5 metres tall, but I've got another pipe up there which holds the top, and it's going to stop that flopping over the top. Now from there, I've got this 50mm stainless steel pipe that I bought from here in town. Now I got it reasonably cheap because it is a second grade stainless steel, but the reason I went with stainless because, well, it's going to be outside and I didn't want to have to put up with the rust, plus it's just that little bit more lighter. Now the biggest problem I had with this build was sourcing these scaffolding clamps. So it's all connected to the stage trussing here. We've got a two-way scaffolding clamp, so one clamps on here and then the opposite way it clamps on and holds that pipe to the frame. And then from there we've got these single scaffolding clamps. They clip on. I put a bolt in there and then they just push through on through the prop here, and then just run a nut on, and that holds it into the frame. So look, I source these out of Brizzy. If you're in a major city, you will have places to buy them, but here in Bundy I actually didn't have anywhere that I could purchase them, so online it was. In total there's 9 lengths of this 50mm stainless steel pipe that make up the bones of this Yai Yai. Now they've all been cut to different lengths and different sizes, so from the furthest points to the closest points and where the joins are, it just gives you somewhere to bolt it together and make sure that it gives it the best possible chance to stay together and to stay upright. On the front side of the prop are the bolts that are attached to that single scaffolding clamp that's attached to the 50mm stainless steel pipe. Just drill a hole through there, the bolt comes through with a nice wide washer and a nut that just goes straight on and holds it to the frame. It's been designed so that every arm has 3 points that's bolted onto, and then for extra support there's zip ties across all of it that hold the joints together, and then also even on the ends and here I've just run a zip tie through just to help hold that in place and so it doesn't fold in on itself. To secure this thing to the ground, I've done the same thing as what I've done with my Mega Tree, where it's a permanent concrete footing which is 450 by 450mm and 1 metre deep, which is also rebar reinforced. Now what I've also done is that with the base plate that fits in with this stage trussing is I've got 4 1-metre lengths of threaded rod, and that's just been bolted to the base plate, and that's also on the concrete. So this thing here has definitely got a good hold of the earth, but unlike the Mega Tree, I have taken them extra few steps to make sure that it stays upright. Now the first part of that extra bit of support consists of onto the left and the right of the Yai Yai. What I've done is I've got a ratchet strap that's attached to the back pipe here, and it runs down, and I've got a ground anchor that's been screwed into the ground, and then that's just been tightened up. So that just sort of helps that rocking and rolling to the left and the right. Now I'll take you in behind here now and show you what I've done at the back. Behind here is easily the most important part of this design. Because this prop is so big and has such a big surface area, when the wind starts to blow and really gets behind it, you are putting a lot of pressure onto your frame and into that concrete footing in the ground. So what I've done to help eliminate this is I've gone down to Bunnings and I've got a couple of these swashbuckle looking things here. Now I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but there they are there. And then all I've done is I've got a bracket and it just runs around and clamps onto the frame, and then it's bolted onto this buckle, and then up the front I've got another bracket with 4 Dynabolts into the side of the house. and then all you do is just wind that up till it gets nice and tight, and then that just helps eliminate that rocking backwards and forth. Now I've got two of these. I've got one down the bottom and I've also got another one right up the very top, and I really like this design. It looks clean, it's very effective, and then plus it's attached to the side of the house, so it gives it something really strong to hold on to. Now a lot of people are probably going to want to argue with me and say, oh no, you're going to want to put more guide wires and all the rest of it, but I can tell you that the very first night that this thing went up, we had a really vicious storm come through that had plenty of wind behind it, and I sat here and watched it, and this thing didn't even look like it was going to move. So yeah, I'm really happy with this design. Now there's a hell of a lot of lights that need to be wired up and plugged into the controller. As always, I like to use Falcon boards. This one here that runs the Yai Yai is a Falcon F16 V4. Now, each arm has 750 pixels with 6 arms in total, which gives 4,500 lights that make up the Yai Yai. Now, the way that I've wired it up is that I've split each arm into 2 strings. Now remember, a string is a continuous run of lights that has one single connection back to the controller. So the first string has 400 lights, and then the second string has 350 lights. And then as always, I like to power inject, so a cable runs out of the power distribution board there and plugs into the end of each string, which helps balance that power and keeps things right across the board. Being my first year working with the Yai Yai, I was really unsure about how I was going to assemble it. Do I put the frame up first and then put each arm on individually, or do I assemble it on the ground? Now what I did was I actually assembled it on the ground, just so I can make sure that all my measurements are correct and I can put it together nice and securely for that first ever build. Then, with the help of my neighbours, we actually just lifted it up and put it into place. Now that turned out to be actually quite dangerous, because on that particular day it was quite windy and this thing here just wanted to take off like a kite. So I'm going to have to revise that idea, and then what I've come up with is still assemble it on the ground, but then with a hire, which is just a body truck with a crane on it. Once it's all assembled, just hook onto the top of it, lift it up and put it into place. Now I could use a cherry picker as well, it might be a little bit cheaper, but for the ease of putting it on the ground and then putting it up and keeping everyone safe, you just can't put a price on that. So that's it for part 4. If you've always wanted to have a Yai Yai in your display, or after watching this video you now want to put one in yours, I hope that you found it useful. In the 5th and final part of this behind the scenes series, I'll be showing you how I've put together my control boxes, plus where I've sourced all the components from. I'm also going to give you a list of essential tools that I think you need to help put your show together. And also, we'll take a look at the show table, which is where all the magic happens. And it's not quite what you think it is. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.